Enemy.
Enemy, and you just finished Enemy?
Yeah, I finished it like 10 minutes ago. I don't know if that's good or bad.
This is your first view?
Yeah, and don't worry, actually, I'm going to say a lot about the whole, like, oh, you need to watch it again. Not really. I want to make sure we commit to this the right way. So now I put the time in. I do nothing but I don't watch video games. I just watch it.
That's great.
But I think I need to do even more now and do like a watch the night before and think about it.
Yeah.
But not really. I was taking notes, and I'm happy with it. But Enemy, 2013, Denis Villeneuve, French-Canadian director, and the writer is somebody. I don't know. He got Best Adapted Screenplay for it, or he got a nomination for it. Based on the book by Jose, I think, somebody.
Saramago.
Yeah, which you got the Nobel Prize for Literature. Look at his takes on the Israel-Palestine conflict if you're curious about how things repeat themselves, which is exactly how they open the movie about history repeating itself.
Yes.
But we won't bring that on the podcast because we will get demonetized. Anyway, why don't you start?
Okay, the second watch yesterday. I forgot how confusing this movie is to me. I didn't, and like you said, I didn't give myself enough time to back check and kind of marinate on what I saw. I remember seeing it for the first time, and obviously spiders are a big part of the film, the symbolism there, and sort of understanding that is the symbolism for women, I believe. And the squishing of the spider at the beginning by the heel is a reflection of his constant need for being unfaithful and a fear of being tied down in a relationship. And he sees this. He's in some sort of seedy sex club. I think he's with a bunch of guys, all different faces, and they're there to kind of watch this woman. I think she's masturbating or something like that. But it's all symbolism across the board. I don't think this is an appropriate platform, at least for this discussion, to get into too much nuance about this, because I think we would only scratch the surface, because again, I really want to think about this. And even, I'm not super into this, but a movie this layered and this complicated, I need to get on YouTube and look at somebody who's really done a deep dive analysis of this and see what I think on their take, because I'm kind of fascinated by it now that I've seen it for a second time. It's obviously not at face value what it is. There's so many layers to it underneath what they're presenting. Really, really well done, beautiful. No surprise from the director considering his body of work. I believe that this was filmed before Prisoners, but they came out in the same year, I want to say. And we know Prisoners. We've, I think, mentioned that briefly in the past, and how we both really love that movie from the same director, Denis. This is a big swing to make a movie like this that really has no clear-cut explanation of anything that's going on. It's all suggested. And there's obviously intent behind it, but they want to explain as little as possible and let the audience eventually figure out the puzzle. It's a puzzle, in my opinion, and it's really well presented. Usually things like this can kind of annoy me because I think it's just trying a little too hard to trick people and not explain enough. But I think this gives you just enough, and it's done well enough to earn at least my respect and my admiration. It's not enjoyable to watch. There's the colors and the tone and the score. It's constant doom, in my opinion. It's very drab and not exciting, but there's a reason for that, because this main character is basically, he's his own worst enemy. I don't know. I just thought of that, but maybe that's sort of what they're suggesting. I don't know. What do you want to add to that? A bunch of bullshit I just said.
I think that's the general take is he is his own worst enemy, hence the name Enemy.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, Prisoners is a masterpiece.
Yes.
Was on the blacklist of screenwriting for a long time. Just a masterpiece. Everything. Direction, acting, the script, theme, Gyllenhaal's take on the Loki, the naming, his name is Loki. Just great everything. I was looking at some reviews and it said like David Lynch-esque. Let me be clear. I don't think David Lynch is very talented whatsoever. And isn't his son the one that did the recent, is that the one with the Mia Goth and Skarsgård? What's that one?
I heard about
Something
that.
With a
I think so. I think so. Yeah. Did you see that?
Yeah, because I just, fine, why not? And I mean, just incoherent crap. Let me give you some things like, I have a bunch of things to critique, and here's something with the counter critique. Like, you didn't get it, right? Anyone can counter critique really anything and say you didn't get it. And so this is how I feel. I mean, I'm pretty consistent about this. You go see a painting, and it has. I actually talked to her when she was talking about Pollock, right? She was an art history. I was like, can I really get into this? Like, explain to me what it is I'm missing here, right? And someone will even correct what I'm about to say, right? But I'll give you her gestalt. maybe it's not the Gestalt, but it's basically like he was fighting with his own masculinity and putting that rage or putting in that, like, confusion and turmoil onto a painting, right? And into chaos, which turned into something expressive of how he felt, manifesting on the painting, right? That's great. Okay, sure. But I'm sorry, it's a painting with a bunch of dots, right? And splashes. It's a painting with a bunch of splashes. That's what it is. What you interpret to be isn't something entirely different. Just like any action can be done. Like, well, is action really evil? And there's a better example. People say, like, it's, immoral to kill a dog. Well, hold on. I could give you a scenario. I'm like, no shit, you could. Anyone could, right? Anyone can play that game. And if you do that with a film, then I feel like it's not a good film. I should not be miserable throughout it and, like, bored. And what are you getting at? If someone's giving a speech at your graduation and it ends with a poignant tie everything back together, but the 45-minute speech is like misery for 42 minutes, it's not a great speech. It doesn't turn into a great speech with one plot twist or plot reveal, or movie in this case. And I just found myself kind of like watching it plot along. So it was the last 20 minutes, I was like, please make it. As soon as I got in the car, I'm like, obviously they're going to die, duh. And then, like, of course, nothing makes sense. Why did she get in the car? She got in the car after essentially being raped, right? She's almost certain she was raped. At this point, at like a 90%, 85%, she was pretty damn certain, right?
Yeah.
You were just raped. Then you get in the car. But not to worry. In the car, you decide to have a conversation about get me out of the car. In the car. You would have never stepped in the car. So you use a plot device to make it work. That's lazy. You make her drive in the car home. He has his hand on the steering wheel, and she sees the ring, tan thing. Now you haven't done, like, just don't be lazy. Don't be lazy. I hate stuff like that. I just gave you a perfect way to tie it together. It doesn't kill anything. It only kills is maybe the sexual tension in the scene to see someone naked to make it more intimate and sexy and David Lynchy. Like, I won't get that payoff if it's not in the car. Okay, great creative brain. That's so beyond me. There's a way to do it. Memento obviously did a pretty good job of it, right? But I don't think this was done well. The filter, I can't see what's going on in some places.
That's
I don't
true.
care if it's like, well, so could the character. I'm like, I'm not looking to empathize the character. I'm not looking for a virtual reality tour, right? I'm looking to see what the fuck is going on, okay? Like, I want to see what's happening here. Specifically the naked women, which they were hard to see and when they're all tanned up. Anyway, modern art has a film, David Lynch-esque. Okay, all right. I did not get it, right? Like, squash the bug, squash your need for femininity, or you're caught in the web. Like, she's a spider, but she's not really. It's you're caught in another web, but you're really not caught in another web because presumably the first guy didn't cheat. The Gyllenhaal with Mélanie Laurent or whatever, he wasn't a cheater, but now he is a cheater.
I think that was that was his mistress, was Laurent, right? That was who he's cheating with. I could be wrong, because he's married and has a baby on the way, and he's freaked out by that. And this is his alternate life or whatever's going on with this woman in this apartment that just has a mattress and a computer, and that's it. Like, it's obviously his fuck pad. It's where he goes to have sex with this girl. I could be wrong. That's just kind of how I saw it.
And here's the thing, before I lose all credibility, like, how'd you miss that? Like, because that's implying he's the same person. But then when she goes to see the history professor, that's another human being she meets. It's a second human being.
But as soon as I think she's realizing that maybe he's losing his mind or something, because as soon as he's off screen, he answers the phone. They never show him. And I went back, because I remember that from the first time I watched it, and I went back and made sure that he wasn't on camera answering the phone. He had just left frame as soon as she called, and he answered, as the other guy presumably. But I think that was intentional. And obviously all these things, there's meaning behind everything that's in a movie like this, and this is the kind of movie that wants you to watch it multiple times. But again, it's not really an enjoyable watch, like you're saying. I agree. I mean, if you're into that artsy stuff, then sure, it is, and you can dig and find little Easter eggs and stuff like that. But that's how I'm seeing it. It's the same guy, and his mistress is Laurent.
Why does he have the tanned wedding ring?
What do you mean?
He has a ring that has a tan mark that she didn't notice. Was there like 3 years in between time for him to acquire a tan mark there?
No, he just takes it off when he sees her.
Why did she notice it right then is my point.
Well, then maybe they haven't been seeing each other too long. They're always in the dark apartment. That's where they meet. There's not a lot of lighting. I mean, maybe it's intentional. There's not lighting and it's drab whenever they're together, so that she can't really see every specific detail on his body.
It was drab in the motel too. I think they might have said something. I see what you're saying. Like you can go back and like.
Yeah. You could pick it apart. I mean,
well, and here's the thing, because I don't like when people are like, like when people are potentially wrong, they just want to keep, doubling down. I missed the possibility of him, answering the phone, right? That one could be like, okay, you missed it, Dan, right? That was actually pretty okay. But then there's like more. You could keep stacking it. Like I said, the wedding ring for me is big. If you're sharp enough mid-sex to, like, if you can pick that up, in the heat of, ecstasy. But then the other, I don't know how long together, months, years, you're together. You don't pick, I don't know. And then Isabella Rossellini with the whole like your apartment's kind of rough, but then she says it's nice because she's saying he has a nice apartment with, the nice one, right? Yeah. The actor one.
Yeah.
And the other one's rough. I could see some of these parallels, and you're like, is it two people type, or is it one person or one guy struggling with,
Yeah, and like mom. Yeah, she does make a comment about his inability to be faithful or stay true to one woman. And she says it very, very convincingly. I think it's obviously an issue that's known, that he likes sleeping around. And maybe he's a sex addict. Who knows? I mean, that's very possible. If you're going to like a sex club like that, then you're looking for some deep shit. By the way, not to get off track too far, have you ever seen Shame with Michael Fassbender?
No, and it's funny because it's been I've seen it in other film reviews, like reference, and I've been curious to watch it.
Yeah, we should do that down the road. That just kind of it popped in my head when I brought up sex addiction, because that's kind of the bulk of that story. His character is a sex addict, but I wonder, it's not something that's talked about very often. And what defines you as a sex addict, really? I wonder what percentage of the population kind of struggles with that, like inability to kind of turn it off. You know what I mean? And just it's not about being faithful to one person. That's completely out the window. It's just sleeping with anything you can fuck, basically. And I do think that's a thing, and it's got to be quite the affliction to have that issue. I don't know. It's a interesting talking point, I think. Have you ever thought about that affliction or whatever it may be, or do you not really buy into it?
I just like the Tiger Woods. It's a like thing you're like born with, right? Thing. I think it's your experiences like anything else, and it's drugs, porn, sex, video games, drinking. But I dislike this, and then someone will bring in like, well, what geneticists have seen, and they show like this marker, whatever else. I think it's a behavior, a learned behavior that's this malign, causes pathos or pain, right? And it's not good for you, right? And it's something you have to deal with and put, and like. It's compelling to you, and you have to work against it. I just dislike if I have if I have sickle cell anemia, it's because I have sickle cell anemia, right? I have it. I don't think you have sex addiction. I don't think you have alcoholism, right? Things make you have those things, and things, it's very hard. And even modern therapy isn't great for it. I'm not saying I think it's extremely hard. I think everyone has. I have things. Everyone has things. But I wasn't born with those things, or they're not whatever. Do I have maybe like a precursor to doing it more? Sure. I'm sure there's people out there that have a precursor to do these things more that don't have those issues because their life and their experiences didn't negatively make them adapt that way, right? Lucky them. So I wouldn't take somebody and just say like, you piece of shit drug addict, right? Like, but I also at the same time, I'm not going to excuse you and say, he's not like you or I am at. Like, there's something, he was born with it, my friend. I'm like, no, I'm sorry. That's where I'm careful with that stuff. That's just, like the whole ADD thing. Like, there's a lot of these things. The best studies I think to look at is the Mormon studies, which they do have studies. I forget which group it was. They did the Mormon studies, and they have like no autism, no Asperger's, no COVID, no rates of depression, like basically nothing. Then they actually do these like tests. It's a specific circle of people. I forget, it was something I was reading about or whatever, but like they have none of these things. Like genuinely none. No, not genetic. What is it? Metabolic disorders, I think it is. Like just nothing. That's one example. It's not fair to globally paint everyone la, but like it is interesting, isn't it? The people that are completely divorced from modernity, living on a farm, not worrying about the stuff we do, not interacting, not having bad sleep habits, not having the food and the sleeping habits and the stress and everything else. And they suddenly they surprisingly don't have any of these problems.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're all caught up in the spider web, really, of all that stuff, the constant stimulation, everything. Yeah. That's a lot to unpack there. But yeah, I think my loose take, but I think kind of what I just said, just to reiterate, I think is the same guy. I think he just maybe is slipping into some sort of psychosis. I mean, he's basically an extra as an actor. He's not a working actor. He's not making any money if he's on that level, but he is obviously teaching a history class in college. I don't know if it specifies college. It's presumably college. It's got to be, based on the classroom environment. Yeah, and all these issues, I don't know about maybe psychosis, shit. But sex addiction, like you said, ADD, ADHD, whatever you want to call it, all this stuff is I think it can be brought on by a lot of the stimulation that we have and we have access to now as adults, because human beings have been on this planet for quite some time. And just a small fraction of that time, we've had this sort of stimulation around us. So we really don't know how to handle it, or what's going to come of it, or the after effects. And everyone's different in how you respond to these sort of things. And some people are just maybe more prone to slipping into some sort of all-consuming behavior that they can't get out of, which would be, considered addiction. But yeah, I think that's just this guy. He's just there. He's trapped, and he's trapped in more ways than one, not just by women, but by his vices. And bring in the spider. There you go. There's your symbolism.
Yeah, and I'm trying to rethink things where she's talking about no, you don't have someone just like me, and I'm not going to go back into your fantasy being a third-rate actor, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
Which means he tried it at some point. It's made, and this is towards, I think, and I don't want to misquote, I think Denis also said, so if it helps, which is going to kind of bring it back to my point, not just to win, but I'm pretty sure he said he wants you to take it open interpretation. Mm-hmm. If there's two people or one, then in that case, it ruins it for me, right? If it was genuinely one person, then I'm rethinking as I'm saying, I'm like, okay, interesting. Doesn't change the fact of the things I said, that it's don't make me miserable, right? For the sure, you can take this roller coaster, but you got to walk up shards of glass along it. It's yeah. Okay, I'd rather not. But so if it's the one guy, it's interesting, right? You go back and it's interesting. But Memento for me was enjoyable the whole way. And this was in my early 20s, 19.
Yeah, I remember.
I had fun the whole way.
Yeah.
And then looking back, it was one of the reviews on IMDb. Again, there's some gems there. He said, you must put the piece together in a way that comes to a logical conclusion that you feel comfortable with, because the film will not hand it over to you. And he kind of talks about his gestalt is, you got to want it and then be willing to take a second viewing because you want it. Yeah. I don't want it bad enough.
Yeah. I felt the same way on the second viewing. I was like, God, am I really watching this again? But I did, and it's okay. Again, it's like that separation of being well done versus being enjoyable. I can tell this is a well done movie, of course, and it should be, considering the resources they had and who they had at the helm of the project, regardless of budget. But you're right, it's not enjoyable to watch for a second time, but it requires you to watch it maybe 3 or 4 times to kind of get there and feel like you have a grasp of what's going on.
I like that we talk culture and whatnot, and maybe someday we'll see your audience likes that and cares more about the culture and then the movie stuff. So lighting and filters are heavy-handed. It is interesting how it opens up with him saying that, you look at our time now and dictatorships are shaped around control, which you lower the education, limit culture, censor information, and kill any means of individual expression. Sound familiar?
Amen. Amen. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That was exactly what I picked up on as soon as that was said. And yeah, we are in the thick of that.
Yeah, but it's from the side that says they're not, so it's kind of hilarious to me. I mean, you've heard me for years railing on this stuff, seemingly probably being the guy that's throwing birdseeds at himself at the fucking pond, but I'm like, no, I'm not crazy. For me, it's not even brilliant. This has been said for thousands of years and done thousands of years, and people try and make it seem like some emergent thing, why are we having these mental illnesses and strange sexual proclivities? And I'm like, because that's how it always happens. It gets to decadence.
Yeah.
The soldiers stop being soldiers. The men stop being men. The femininity takes over, which means collaboration, no competition, groupthink, never speaking out. It becomes heavily sexualized because people don't have the issue of surviving anymore. And then it gets overthrown by something more powerful, external force, or internally that destroys it all. This is the pattern. And what's scary is we have more knowledge than ever, and we're still doing it willingly. And that's where I sometimes get like someone like, you should watch this guy on YouTube. He has this quote. I'm like, well, yeah, that's from Aristotle, like thousands of years ago. He's just requoting it. Yeah, isn't that interesting? I'm like, well, yeah, it's been said like maybe 96 times from like 96. Like, what do you mean? So it is interesting though, like this was 2013 and it wasn't that bad back then. It was not great, but now it's pretty freaking bad. And by that, I mean our current way we're carrying out society and trying to be a society it is.
Yeah. Okay. It's you and I are, I think, in line with these kind of movies. For me, you got to respect it. And I think it's one of those things. I mean, there are independent filmmakers or just film buffs, whatever you want to call them, that love this kind of stuff. And I think it's probably inspiring for them to make their own. And I think that's great because obviously this is, for me, light years better than what the majority of Hollywood produces. So I'll take this over that any day. But rewatchability, entertainment is low, and that's unfortunate. But it's still, I do respect what was accomplished here and what was attempted.
Yeah, I agree, but I begrudgingly agree, which is to say, if you make a 90s film, that's what happened to Counting Monte Cristo. They're in a dark time. And I told you, you were always like, why do you like this movie so much? I'm like, Roger Ebert said it's so original, it's almost new, right? Right now, if you make a movie like, we talk about Top Gun Maverick. Top Gun Maverick, is it special? No, it's not special really in any way. Well, that's not fair. It's not special. It's special for where it is. That was that was Jurassic Park, right? Like, what are we talking about here? That was Batman. This was done. It was a great blockbuster movie, but we don't make those now. So now if you make one, it's like, oh my God, this has changed. I'm like, it hasn't changed anything. It's just hearkening to a time where things weren't so screwed up.
I hope we get back there. Good old golden age. It'd be nice to have another one.
Yeah, we're long overdue for it. And that's usually how it happens. I mean, things are collapsing in film and video games and all of it. And so it's going to come back together usually. Like, what is it? You have the Dark Ages and the Renaissance, right? Yeah, we'll see. Overarching to my point, I think things should be generally self-evident. And then if you have to research deeper, it should be enjoyable and you want to research deeper, right? Because you were so gripped by the story, by the song, by the artwork, by the machine, by the architecture, that you want to know more. My take, but
piques your interest. It has to. Something's got to pull you in. There's got to be a hook. And what was the hook here? Don't know. Gyllenhaal's a good actor, but you need more than that. And it's I don't like movies that are depressing to look at with the filters and everything. That's just where I am at the moment.
I was waiting for my hook in this film to care. And it didn't come. Or like the hook in a song, there's literally called a hook in a song. You're right. I'm like, so when he started his little speech about history, I was like, okay, that's kind of a hook. Ooh, we're going to get into philosophy, history, repeating itself. Okay, come on. But I was like waiting. I'm like, give me that thing. Let me bite down somewhere. Even the sex club stuff, I don't love that. I think it's kind of weird and Kubrick-esque, but still, I was like, okay, maybe there's gonna be more sex club scenes that are gonna show me like the hook, like, whoa, what's happening this night, right? But I didn't get a hook. It was just watching it play out with a great actor, like you said. Yeah. So, great point.
Beautiful, man. Okay, what do you score Enemy?
I was going to say a 6, but I got to be fair to stuff you've said. I'd say like a 6.4. A 6.4. Yeah.
6.9 here. 6.9. Yep. It's
probably
there.
Closer to what it should be.
It's there.
But I'm going to say, but I like yours better, but I'm going to say 6.4.
To be clear, I didn't enjoy it more the second time I saw it. I did not. I just want to say that.